presentation is on municipal response to fiscal austerity. The Thai case is seem to fit very well with our sub-theme fiscal retrenchment. Okay, let me introduce another presenter. The second presenter, there are two presenters for the second presentation. The first one is Dr. Subtheme1 He received his master's degree from public affairs from Columbia University, and PhD in political science from Northern Illinois University. And the second presenter is Dr. Ashakon Wongpridi. He received master's degree in Southeast Asian Studies from Kyoto University. Okay, both PhD and master degree from Kyoto University. He is assistant professor in the Graduate School of Public Administration, NIDA. Their presentation will be on planning, budgeting in capital improvement in Thai municipalities, problem in development in Thai municipal self-governing capacities. And the third presentation is from Dr. Akio Kamiko, professor from the School of Policy Science, Ritsumeikan University in Japan. Okay, and the last presentation is from, I don't have his paper, it's from Professor Mark Heller from University of Hong Kong. He works at the department, he is an associate professor at the Department of Public and Social Administration. So we have 4 presentations, but 5 presenters. The second presentation, we have 2 presenters. Okay, let's start with the first presentation. Okay, from Dr. Virasak Kriyate. Okay.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you had a good time last night here in Bangkok. And today I'm going to present one of my research projects on municipal finance. Specifically, it's about the fiscal adjustment of Thai local government. And I'm trying to keep my presentation short. And anyway, if you have any question, I would like to ask you to keep it until the end of my presentation. And I would like to hear your comments and also your question. And let me start like this. If you have, I would say, if you have a smaller amount of money in your pocket right now, what would you do? Are you going to spend the same amount, or are you going to find some additional revenues, or doing nothing? Well, anyway, that's the start of my presentation. What would Thai local government do if they know that the economy is declining? That's the start of my research. And as you may know, the economy has shrunk in the past few years. The situation has a wide impact on the municipal finance. And usually in the local finance literature, they publish very much about the, I would say, the fiscal behavior of local government, usually in developed countries. But anyway, in the developing countries, like for example Thailand, we have a very limited understanding of fiscal behavior of Thai local government. We hardly know whether they would respond proactively to the economic crisis. That's my research question. If they know that the economy has declined, what would they do? And what are the major reasons for employing a retrenchment strategy? That's also the second research question of my paper. And the literature says that usually government has three major groups of retrenchment options, like expenditure cuts, or they can find the additional revenue sources, or they employ the management improvement strategies. And that's what the literature says. And the experiences from mostly from the US and the Western countries, they say that when the economy hit, they are trying to maintain the existing level of public services. They find the additional revenue options. They are trying to redesign their work process, or they can employ the contract out strategy. And whether or not Thai local government follow this pattern, I will show to you soon. And here are the options available for Thai local government. As we can see, that they are you can cut on the capital improvement, you can cut miscellaneous spending, something, or they can find the additional resources from collecting additional fees or user charge, or whatsoever. They can employ the work process redesign. That's the option. In order to understand the fiscal behavior of Thai local government in the past 2 years, I conduct mail research, sent the questionnaires to all Thai municipal government, and I've got about 48% response rate, which is quite okay for the context of developing countries. And the preliminary analysis showed that they are good sample, at least in terms of the spending size of the municipal budget. And for the second research question, in order to understand the determinants or the factors determining what are the major reasons for the decision to use or not to use particular retrenchment option, I employ the regression analysis. Specifically, is a logistic regression in order to understand the causal relationship between the many independent factors on the decision to use the retrenchment option. And here are the overview of my sample about the 970 municipal government. Usually they are quite small municipalities of about fewer than 10,000 populations. What I found from this research for the first part is, as we can see from this table, usually they have declined level of spending. This can be seen quite clearly from this table. For example, you can see for the large-scale cities. Basically, before the crisis, they spent about 7,000 something Thai baht per capita. But in the year of the economic crisis, they spent. You can see they cut the spending quite massively, about 30% something on their spending per capita. That's also true for smaller scale of cities, like urban city or even a smaller scale city. But the point is, as you can see the size of the percentage decline. You can see that for the larger scale of city, they cut their spending massively, but that's not the case for the smaller scale of municipal government. I have the explanation later. I will discuss this point later. And the second impact of the economic crisis is, you can see the amount of fiscal reserve on this column. For the fiscal year 2009, that's the year before the crisis, they have like the amount of fiscal reserve. But after the crisis, you can see for the smaller scale city over here, the size of the decline of fiscal reserve has been very evident in this case, but that's not the case for the larger scale city. One of the explanations might be like this. For the larger scale city, like metro city, they cut their spending first. They do not use the reserve to fill the gap of municipal budget. But for the small scale city, they are trying to maintain, as you can see, they are trying to maintain the same amount of spending, but they are drawing down the amount of fiscal reserve. That's the first overview of the sample. And for the time being, I will make these figures to capture all of the findings here in one slide. And as you can see that, as I said, there are three major groups of retrenchment strategies. And these are for the expenditure cut, like miscellaneous cut, hiring fees, or even the capital improvement cut. As you can see, Thai municipalities, the sample, tend to employ this group of strategies for the most part. But they hardly employ this group of strategy, the management improvement. They hardly, they hardly redesign their work process. They hardly, contracting out their services. You can see in terms of the frequency of the decision to use the retrenchment option. So the question is, what are the main reasons for employing, using or not using the retrenchment strategy? So I try to conduct the regression analysis, and this slide is just the summary of my findings. I try to make it short, so I just summarize as these findings. For the first part, the reason for employing either strategy, one of the reasons is that they have whether or not good or bad fiscal condition. Like for example, if they have the larger amount of reserve, like a fund balance, as indicated by fund balance ratio, they are less likely to employ the retrenchment option. As you can see, if you have a larger size of financial buffer, you hardly change your spending behavior, something like that. That's also true for the Thai municipal government. If they have a larger amount of reserve, they tend to do nothing unless, except just spending their reserve. But if they have a larger amount of debt, like a debt per capita, debt ratio, something